Okay, so welcome back. So we'll take it a little bit further now that you guys are comfortable with the Jumbotron. What I want to do is I want to create a brand new container. And the container gives us a lot of creative freedom. So I'm actually going to break free with a little space here. Then I'm going to make a new div that's the div class container. And that will give us an automatic div right there. And within that, we're going to make a new div of class, which is going to be called a row. And this is going to help us to use the that'll help us to use the columns that we were talking about a minute ago. So the column that I want to experiment with is going to be the medium size column of width 8, which is a really excellent design choice. And then inside of that I want to make a heading of type 2. It'll be a little smaller than the heading of type 1, and I want to say column 1 just to show off a little bit. And let's make a paragraph underneath that that says, here's my model paragraph. And I'll kind of put in some kind of model text there. And then I'll wrap that up with a P, so that'll be kind of a large paragraph that'll transpire there. And then I'm going to set up another paragraph where I'll make another button. And the buttons here are really rich, so there's all sorts of buttons that are possible here within Bootstrap. And it's not going to link anywhere specifically right now. But it will be, of course, a button. And we'll say, here's view details. Big excitement. Closing A, closing P. Eclipse does a good job of guessing what I want to include there. And then that will be the close of my div. And then I want to close this other div. And I want to bring these together. I mean, it's good to have some oxygen inside of your code, but eventually you want to kind of compress things so they look, so it's your mind, your eye, will cross over it very fast and understand it. So let's move that right, and then let's eliminate any of this white space here. Ultimately, having code without a lot of white space and comments will help the speed of your page, but right now it's just much more important that you guys are bridging the idea of the divs. So let's do a quick sample where I'm going to go back here and I can reload, and it appears that I'm getting another column right here with my button is coming in. And there's a certain cutoff, and that's due to the width of 8. But if I wanted to fool around with that a little bit and say, well, what if it was just a width of 6? I can go back here and say, well, instead of it being 8, we're going to shorten it, and it'll be a 6. So that refresh is the way that we reload the changes, and then while you develop, you should disable your caches. Now, there's 3 really hot browsers. I mean, one is Firefox, one is Chrome. Safari is probably what you're going to use if you're a Mac person. Mac is, very common. Internet Explorer works great too. It does everything all these other, browsers do. The notion of caches, though, it's accessible from a different location inside of your browser. So if you're on Chrome, then you're going to want to go into the settings piece in Chrome. So let's do a little bit more of this. And my thoughts are I could probably create another column within that row. So I'll kind of fill in another column. And if this one is going to be 8, that's fine. I want to use up the rest of my 12 and put in a 4. And I'll call this column 2. And maybe I'll put in another button right there. And I'll say view more details. And that's great. Why don't we wrap that? And we'll go ahead and load that. And you can see I'm building sort of an information architecture for this page. nice and clean. I think what the world cares about is that it looks neat and composed. The world kind of respects, order. So that's why Bootstrap is so pervasive. I think it's a great tool for CIS students. Now I've got my container still open, so I may just create a second row, right, and kind of multiply my work here. And maybe what I'll do is I'll set this to be column 4, and I'll set this as column 8. And from here, it's all downhill. You're getting the spirit of it, and now there's new content that's happening here. So now, the web, images and text and images, right? That's software engineering, that's the web. The occasional embed, and then that's it. And the rest of that ball game is settled inside of the CSS and the styling. And so therein lies, the kind of the basics of Bootstrap. Bootstrap is just a convenient way for people to get stuff rolling. And so that's what you guys should try out. Now what I could do is I could create yet another row if I wanted to, given the spirit of what I'm building, and no one is going to fault me. Maybe I'll call this a 4, and I'll call this a 4, and then I'll make an additional 4. And we'll go on over here and reload. And now, without a lot of ado, we've got a fairly workable website. And so now if we're going to upload all of this to AWS, that's fine. I commend you. One of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to upload all your Bootstrap. So you need to upload your CSS, your fonts, and your JS, and that could be onerous. You've got to touch upon all of those. It's not so bad, but it may be wise to use a fun hacker tool like CyberDuck. My children are going to love this. They're kind of infantilizing us because we're big tough programmers. We're in the configuration for your S3 bucket, and make that upload at that point. So, all right. So let me leave you with that, and then we can take it from there.